All right, our next speaker then is Ambal Jayaraman from TDA Research, speaking about their low-cost wearable multi-gas chemical sensor badges for first responders. Ambal?
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for the introduction. Yeah, I'll be talking about a low-cost wearable multi-gas chemical sensor badge we are developing for the first responders today. Uh, this is funded by DHS SBIR Program, and we are in the finished the phase 2 and right now in commercialization readiness pilot program. Uh, this device addresses concerns on the uh, use of toxic industrial chemicals. Toxic industrial chemicals are much more readily available and could be easily obtained by terrorists or others and could be used as a threat. And threat detection market for chem bio defense is like a really big market. It's about like $9.7 billion in 2022, and it's growing rapidly. This device will find a place in that market, and um, it's going to be a very small wearable device. Um, what is the benefits? The benefits is like the stick detector, take toxic industrial chemicals or like a class of compounds which are like hydrogen sulfide, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxide, those type of chemicals, and exposure to those are like a concern for like first responders, firefighters, because in a post-fire scenario or during fires, you may be exposed to a lot of these gases depending on the type of fire they fight, and also law enforcement people, EMS personnel, because they go into the areas where they are not aware of what's happening in that area, and also like hazmat teams when hazmat leak or things happen. So it's going to be useful in that scenario to have a wearable device which can intimate indicate the presence of these threats in the atmosphere. It's also going to be useful for fire insurance inspectors because they typically visit the post-fire hazard places and they could be subjected to the exposure of the ticks. TSA and border control and Coast Guard is another area where it could find use. And also the much bigger market is like in industrial occupational safety hazards. Like it could be a device which people could wear for looking at their regular exposure in their work environment and stuff. Uh, so looking at technologies, what is already available in the marketplace and where this new technology will fit in. Uh, some of the baseline technologies are highlighted here. So there are technologies all the way from like simple colorimetric detectors, which are just color changing badges. So you just look at a color change and humans interpret what type of threat it is, and you have to wear a set of badges, and then you, depending on the badge and the color change, you read a chart and then come up with what threat is present in the gas. And these vary in cost from $5 to $10. Also, there are commercial handheld personal gas monitors, which are bulky, but uh, and also like most of them can do only single gas and cost between like $300 to $600. The multi-gas monitors are more expensive, requiring like more than $500. And typically, the multi-gas monitors being used by first responders are even more robust, and they are costing about like $3,000 to $5,000. And so a lot of the fire first responder teams in small towns cannot afford to have like many of these multi-gas monitors, and uh, probably have one or two, and it's shared. It's a shared resource. Also, like a lot of these multi-gas monitors have like replaceable sensor cartridges, which are like very expensive to replace and could be like about $200 to $250 for replacement sensors. So TDA is developing a new sensor, which is like a wearable sensor, which fits in the cost range of like about $100 and can do multiple gases at that $100 price and alert first responder to the type of gas being present and also the level of hazard. Is it like PEL level exposure they are being subjected to, or is the concentration too high that it's immediately danger to life and health, which is called IDLH, and they have to get out of that zone. So it can intimate alarms in each of those threshold levels, and these threshold levels are like user configurable. Um, our badge looks like kind of like a schematic is shown on the picture here, which uses like which kind of change color, and then like the sensors kind of detect the concentration of the contaminants. So these cartridges needs to be replaced once a week, and they can be used in the device for a week. Or if you are exposed to IDLH level concentrations, then you have to replace that cartridge. And these cartridges are going to be very low cost cartridges, like in the $2 to $5 range, and more closer to $2 when it's kind of has a big market presence. So these devices, the features of these device includes like reduces and prevents exposure to first responders by intimating the threat level and the type of threat, and also like it's about like 60 grams. And the one on the top is the Gen 2 device, which we uh, prepared, manufactured during the phase 2 of our SBIR program. Now we are in the commercialization readiness pilot, and we are looking at two types of devices: the Gen 3 Lite, which is very small, but it's just like a smaller. It doesn't have a replaceable battery, so it has an inbuilt battery which needs to be charged. While the Gen 3, the bigger version, includes like a replaceable battery and also can do like a triggered sampling, and it includes monitors for like carbon monoxide and oxygen, which are included in it. And these devices can detect the alarms in like 30 to 60 seconds and provides both audible, visual, and tactical alarms, like kind of like vibrational alerts. So the TICs we have developed so far for this platform are like H2S, hydrogen sulfide, ammonia, NH3, phosphine, PH3, hydrogen cyanide, HCN, which are typically present in post-fire scenarios of like particularly plastics, and NO2, nitrogen oxide, and chlorine. All of these gases can be detected with this sensor right now, and it can be further expanded to up to 15 gases with our current platform. And these devices include a small OLED screen where the alerts are and what is the concentration, so the first responder could see that. And also like it provides, like as I mentioned, like tactical and audible alarms. And the replaceable cartridges, it says $3 to $5, and at higher market sizes, it can go down to the $2. Like, and 7-day cartridge life once it's put in the device, and a shelf life of like 12 months is when it's kept sealed before use. It has both Bluetooth and Bluetooth low energy transmission device and our Gen 2 device shown here. Bluetooth Classic is the communication protocol for the current generation of Motorola radios. And so it's kind of a legacy hardware. The next generation Bluetooth, which is the Bluetooth low energy, uh, is probably where the radios will go. And our device is already capable of doing both type of communications, and it can do the use the radio to communicate to a command center, so it can indicate what type of threat each of the first responders are exposed to. So it can be configured to that type of scenario. So kind of like a command center could know like what type of threat is first responder is exposed to, and then ask them to get out of it, even if they are not, when they are actively fighting the fire and they are not like looking at these alarms. So that type of monitoring is possible with this device. And also like it has capability to dump the data via this Bluetooth communication um, to centralized servers for data collection and analysis, post-analysis. And also the command center could be equipped with a full analysis suite of software if needed. So it kind of will fit into the future kind of like multi-mode operational scenarios. So in terms of like some data from the device, like in phase 2, we completed some operational field assessment with the Naval Research Laboratory, and we completed this assessment with 4 of the TICs: hydrogen sulfide, H2S, ammonia, NH3, phosphine, and hydrogen cyanide. And we were able to show that the sensor provides an alarm in 30 to 60 seconds. And with the data generated from these tests, we were able to refine our algorithms now to provide alarms in like 10 to 20 seconds using that same data from that, like by improving our detection algorithms, which is like can be even further improved when we try to field these devices and more data is generated, and we are able to kind of use even more sophisticated algorithms like machine learning and stuff to further improve our uh, detection algorithms and the predictions. And we are able to predict the concentrations within like 10% of the threshold at PEL levels, which is a very small threshold. And for phosphine, it took longer, particularly at the PEL level, because the PEL is order of magnitude lower. Otherwise, like the alarms were all like in that less than close to the half a minute range, and which is further now reduced to 20 seconds. Looking at this history or the roadmap for this device, the device was conceptualized in 2016. We got some SBIR funding in 2017, and we did some prototype in phase one, which is shown there in 2017, which was only like we made 2 units which can detect 2 ticks at a time. And then like we expanded it to 4 ticks in phase two. And then like and the phase two device is shown here. In 2020, sent we made up to like 10 devices. We sent 4 of them to Naval Research Laboratory, and they tested these devices. We sent them about like close to 300 of these cartridges, which were evaluated uh, thoroughly at different conditions for repeatability, and also for like different temperatures, different humidity levels, and also in the presence of other contaminants like diesel vapors and bleach, which are expected in the operational scenario. Some of these interference on our device performance. And right now we are in 2022, and we are working to um, producing more of the units, and also refine the device to be more kind of like for final application rated kind of drop resistance, and also like increased resistance for water and stuff. Devices end of this year, and probably by abilities to do hundreds of devices, and we can field them with multiple first responder units. Like we use in-house production capabilities, so we can supply up to like 300 of these units with our replaceable indicator cartridges. And we will seek like we are seeking vendors and licensors for like marketing these devices. Mind the commercialization or licensing or creating spin-off as the market matures. And TDA has supported similar sensors like even as a spin-off company. So we supply sensors for like hydrogen sulfide detection for like fuel cell market. So what are the next steps? We are right now in the commercialization readiness pilot program. We are developing the Gen 3 prototypes, which are going to be fielded with first responders. We recently fielded our Gen 2 prototypes with a local fire department in Fairmont in Colorado, and we got valuable feedback on like how it can be integrated with their uniforms, and how friendly it is for using, and what are the things we need to change, etc. And we'll be doing additional lab and qualification testing to improve our algorithms further, and then refine our detection times, and also obtain customer feedback from fielding these Gen 3 devices. And both in-person and virtual engagements with first responders are envisioned through DHS, and also through directly reaching out to local fire departments. We will have manufacturing and marketing plans at the end of this program, and we'll be at a status where we can go out and then seek these AEL and SEL kind of authorized equipment list and standard equipment list kind of approvals, so that like it can be on the database for the first responders to procure them. Finally, a little bit information about TDA Research. We are a small business based out of a suburb in Denver, Colorado. We are about 100 people right now. It's grown a little bit after when we put this presentation, and about $24 million in revenues. And we have combined lab spaces of 75,000 square feet. Our general business model is to secure IP and then commercialize via spin-off, licensing, joint ventures, or of late, like we have been doing a lot of them as like supporting as internal business units, particularly in the initial commercialization space. I think that's the last slide, and we'll move on for any questions you have on this device, or like on this sensor and its application. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Ambal.